Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. It is Sunday evening. Tottenham Hotspur have just lost their third game in the row, 2-1 to Aston Villa at the Tottenham Stadium. I wasn't there. We did the watch along here and on Henry Wright TV. Couldn't make it. I had too many things to do this morning. Couldn't get to the game in time. But what a devastating result from what I would summarize as a wonderful performance. I'll say it from the get-go. I'm not upset with the effort of the boys. I'm not particularly disheartened. I feel like Tottenham were the better team for the vast majority of the game, vast majority of the game. I think that we dominated Aston Villa, a very, very strong Aston Villa that was set up wonderfully well by Unai Emery to try to play the way and to try to force the outcome that actually materialized. On another day, Tottenham would have and could have been in a position where the superiority of the chances that we created would have been rewarded, and that by that point in the game, Aston Villa were going to struggle, but they didn't. They hung on. World class from Unai Emery's goalkeeper Emi Martinez, keeping Villa in the game. A lot of wastefulness from Tottenham's front line. It's a very difficult one to kind of pick the bones out of when you're emotional after the result, because I understand the inclination to kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater and look at the fact that we're 3 losses on the bounce, and we've got Manchester City away next, which is likely going to be a tough day. And then after that, you've got West Ham at home. Injury issues that Tottenham now have to face that are further deeper than they were before the game started. We don't know if Destiny Udogie played with an injury. Whether that will be something we have to hear about during the week. We're certainly worried about what's happened to Rodrigo Bentancur. It never rains, but it pours at Tottenham. But it feels like it's not pouring; it's a tsunami of bad misfortune with regards to our fitness of our players. But those that did take to the team today, I thought were generally, to a man, incredibly impressive for the most part. I thought that the effort was sensational if the output wasn't. And I think that's the sort of story, the tale of the tape is everyone did their bit. Everyone tried their hardest. I do think that we went at it with a level of intensity and ferocity in the first half that the only way that you can maintain that level is if the circumstances of the game change a little bit by halftime, where you can sit back and protect. And unfortunately, Tottenham didn't get themselves into that position. We were 1-0 up. If it wasn't for a 51st minute of the first half equalizer, we would have gone in at least 1-0 up at halftime. From what I've seen, though, Matty Cash, for me, should have been sent off for a double yellow card. That same guy who always seems to try to injure our players is a dirty player. I can't stand him. There was also an elbow on Brian Hill that went unpunished by the VAR. More question marks over VAR's authenticity and their ability to do their job needs to be questioned. But, ultimately, I'm not going to focus too much on that for the purposes of this particular review, because I'm straight after the game. I'm a little bit angry. I've had a couple of beers and I don't want to sort of get sidetracked into the refereeing decisions. I thought the referee, in the most part, had a fairly good game. But look, ultimately, too many goals we conceded, too many chances we created, too many goals we scored that were, inches, millimeters offside. And I know what's going to happen. I feel like I've already seen on Twitter people going for Emerson Royale because of the defensive frailties for the goals that were scored by Aston Villa. But ultimately, I think that is a consequence of the circumstances. If you're playing 4 fullbacks as your back line, how threadbare we are in that scenario. And to go after Emerson Royale feels like scapegoating, just like we would have gone after Eric Dyer had he been on the pitch and the same thing materialized. But when you have as much possession as you do, I think Tottenham had 65% possession, give or take. We had so much opportunity, so many chances that we could have done more with. And yet, the reality of the situation, guys, is that if someone at the top end of the pitch doesn't take an opportunity or scores a goal that's offside, then because it doesn't change the scoreline to the negative, people overlook it. And then as soon as there is a goal conceded at the other end, that ultimately is punished, and people want to focus on that. For me today, the problems were not at the back. I thought Destiny Udogie had a fantastic performance down the left-hand side. I thought Pedro Porro was one of the better players on the pitch. I thought Emerson Royal and Ben Davies had good games. Yes, I think that there are massive issues defensively in the air without the likes of Romero and Van der Ven. But you know what? I would make the argument that even with Romero and Van der Ven, aerially, we would have been threatened today. It's not something that we're particularly good at, and it's something that Aston Villa very much are. Pau Torres was very, very impressive going forward. And I think the summary, the tail of the tape is that Aston Villa took their chances. The few chances that they had, they converted. Tottenham had so many chances. We hit the post in the first couple of minutes. We had a chance to score in the first couple of minutes. Brian Hill down the left-hand side, powered the ball into the path of Emi Martinez. Brennan Johnson, when he broke through, hit the ball, straight at the goal. He could have chosen an inch to the right, inch to the left, a foot to the right, foot to the left, and we're up again. The chances in the second half were never ending. I think Tottenham created so much today, and there's so many positives to take from the game if you focus on what could have been on a different day. But I think we have to argue with ourselves around why it is that Tottenham can not ever seem to convert a higher propensity of the chances than other teams can. And that to me is not something that where you end up with a scenario where you throw the book at Emerson Royal, who's playing as a right-sided centre back for the first time at Tottenham Hotspur. And I don't think that you should necessarily be arguing or creating narratives where it's the backline's defense that we walked away with that game without anything. I think that if you're going to argue anywhere, you need to look at the players at the top end of the pitch. For me, Brian Hill is a player that I want to do well. I've always had a soft spot for, and I think that today he overcomplicated things. I think he got into positions where he could have had a shot first time, but a lot of back heels. I said this 3 times now. I'm not going to repeat myself for this video, but I've said it all day. I think that Richarlison was criticized and critiqued by myself and others for overcomplicating the first touch. And I think Brian Hill was guilty of doing that. I think Brennan Johnson I saw do that today. I thought Decky did it a couple of times. I think there was too much overcomplication that ultimately found us unstuck. I think Brennan Johnson, his fitness is a massive issue. I'm sorry, you're 22 years old or 21, 22, 23 years old. And it comes across to me like he is not only not match fit, but I don't think he's physically fit. He doesn't do anything. In the first half, he touched the ball 9 times and he was shattered by the 50th minute. Everything on the first half was coming down our left-hand side. Brian Hill touched the ball 3.5 times more than Brennan Johnson did. In the second half, Brennan Johnson was on his legs. I don't understand what that's about. That's a concern for me. I thought Decky today was fantastic. I thought Decky was absolutely sensational. Anyone who's criticizing Decky for what he does on the ball, off the ball, he's got the biggest engine I've seen in a Tottenham player for a long time. Him and Højbjerg, but Højbjerg doesn't get to usually play 90 minutes anymore. Decky plays for the full 100 minutes and is bodying people late on. He is a wonderful asset, primarily because the rest of the players in our team don't have the stones for 100 minutes of Ange ball, and we're playing once a week. And that to me is a concern that I have to raise right now, is that I'm put aside the fact we have injuries. Injuries don't preclude the issue of engine. And I worry a little bit about whether or not, even if Tottenham were to finish in Europe this season and finish 5th, 6th, 7th, 4th, whatever, get into Champions League, Europa League, or the Conference League, I really do worry about whether or not Ange ball is something that our squad, whether they're entirely fit or not, or otherwise, can maintain for 90 minutes once a week, let alone twice a week. I really want to hear your thoughts on that. For me, I feel like we run out of steam in the second half and we struggled to kind of keep that same level of momentum up. And we're not playing twice a week, and we're playing against a team that does. And Aston Villa adapt and apply their strategy with that in mind, I'm guessing. And I just worry whether or not, if we were to be in Europe, that would be something that would currently be exposed. For me, Aston Villa were very, very good at applying and executing on a strategy that was very deliberate. They set up with a 4-4-2 that at times could look like like a 5-3-2. Um, Look, on another day, they could have found themselves 3-0 down, and obviously then the game changes. But the fact that they were still in the game at 1-0 down, they got back into it. They had a goal disallowed. Spurs had 3 goals disallowed. You have to start to ask questions a little bit about where's the lesson there? When do people learn the lesson about, because it's inches, it is inches. And, you know, the minutia is where you find the value in these sorts of games. Aston Villa had a goal ruled out for offside. Spurs had 3. We hit the post. They hit the post. It could have been very different on any given Sunday. And for me, that is where I'm going to take it. That's the reason why I'm not too disheartened today. I feel like we did ourselves proud. The circumstances of the game, the circumstances of our injuries, Aston Villa were pretty much full strength. Tottenham were ravaged with injuries, and we dominated them. We dominated them on the momentumometer. We dominated them for 85 minutes of the 90. If you look at that kind of that graphic, and they just took their chances better than we did. But for me, if I'm going to throw my energy into any particular direction, guys, it has to be to the forward line, but specifically Brennan Johnson, Brian Hill, and Sonny. Not Decky. I'm not including Decky. I thought Decky was fantastic in the 10, and when he laterally came out to the right, I think he carried on his job. I think Lo Celso was excellent in the 8. I thought he was very, very accomplished. I thought Bentancur in the 6 was brilliant. I really hope that he's not injured for too long. I thought everybody did their job today. But if I have to give a summary performance of where I would say there needs to be lessons learned, it's Sonny staying on side, it's Brian Hill with decision making on his first touch, and it's Brennan Johnson on his fitness. If those 3 things could be secured, I think Tottenham would have won that game comfortably. Everybody else I thought did good jobs. I thought Højbjerg was good when he came on. I also have to question a little bit around Ange Postecoglou. Again, don't want to say questioning Ange, because some people will say you can't question Ange. I'm very, very, very appreciative of the football that we're seeing. I really enjoyed the game. It was a wonderful, wonderful game. I'm devastated with the result, but I'm delighted with the performance, generally speaking. However, I would say with the circumstances of the substitutions, not sure if there was a natural rationale for bringing on Ollie Skip for Lo Celso, apart from maybe the fact that Lo Celso was shattered. He hasn't played much first team football for Tottenham. He hasn't played a lot of first team football generally, but he went off to Argentina. He only arrived back, I think, Thursday night, Friday morning. So maybe he was absolutely shattered. But I would say if that made sense, maybe we didn't know why, but if that was the rationale for that, fine. But I do think that there should have been a rationale to bring on Jamie Donnelly. I think there was no better time than in that last 10 minutes to bring him on and see what he could do in front of an absolutely, clearly, evidently shattered Brennan Johnson. I think that would have made a lot of sense. Didn't happen. Alejo Veliz again comes on, and it's weird because for the 10 minutes before he came on the pitch, we were springing balls into the box looking for headers, that there was no one in the box that could head. And then as soon as we bring him on, suddenly we're not doing that anymore. It's very frustrating, very odd. Lots to chew through at 9:00 this evening on Tottenham Takes on Henry's channel with the guys. But look, for me, guys, I don't have that much to complain about. Aston Villa are a very good team, organised brilliantly well by a great manager in Unai Emery. But on a different day, Tottenham deserved the win. I don't think anyone would say that Aston Villa deserved the win. I think the difference was some people take their chances, others don't. If Tottenham had a clinical finisher at the top end of the pitch, and I think that Tottenham also lack a little bit of leadership, a little bit of this narrative of always going for the youth. I get it. It prepares us for the future, but I think there's also a requirement to think about the now. And I do wonder whether performances like this, results like this, need to require a rethink on what is the perfect policy for the January transfer window. I just feel like we need a proper number 9. Sonny was fantastic today, but I think everything he could have done as a number 9 today, he could have done on the left-hand side. I thought Brennan Johnson was ineffectual, and I think Brian Hill also had question marks as the game went on. he looked busy, lot of tricks and flicks and tricks, but again, it's our width. Our width for me was the issue. Um, but look, guys, I'm not disappointed. I think I'm not even going to give harsh marks on Brennan Johnson or Brian Hill. I thought they did okay. I thought the rest of the team did very well. I thought Emi Martinez was the man of the match. What does that tell you? Wonderful saves from that guy. He always seems to find it. We could have had 4 or 5 goals on a different day. I'm devastated by by the output, the outcome. I'm incredibly proud of the performance. I'm just sad that we have lost 3 on the bounce, and we've got the toughest test coming up in a week's time. And it's a high likelihood that Tottenham are going to find themselves on the back of 4 losses on the bounce ever since the Chelsea game. And I wonder then about what's going to happen to the confidence of this young team when we're playing well. We played really well today. Um, yeah, it's fine margins. It's very fine margins, but you're not going to hear too much complaints from me. Let me know your thoughts, though, guys. Does it change your appetite for January? Are you worried? Is it going to be 4 losses on the bounce? When was the last time that happened to a Tottenham manager in the Premier League? It's been a while. Yeah, I just feel sad. I just feel sad about today's performance. I'll leave it there. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, bye-bye.